Hello, guys. I'm Rupesh and I welcome you back to another episode of Getting Along with Flutter. In this video, we'll be talking about stateful widgets. We'll be continuing with the same application which we made in our last video. So let's get started. Now, let's start with what are stateful widgets. Stateful widgets are useful when the part of the user interface you are describing can change dynamically. For example, you include a clock or anything in your application which changes over time, which is not constant. Then only you will need a stateful widget instead of a stateless one. Now let's include the stateful widget class inside our application. What we need to do is we'll follow a shortcut, which is we'll type stateful and the class is here. We'll define the class as, let's say, test. Now this is pretty similar to the class of stateless widget. As you can see, class test extends stateless widget and class test extends stateful widget. It's pretty similar. There is nothing different over here. And you can see the override functionality too. You can see the build functionality here. You can see the return functionality here too. So it's pretty much same. There is no rocket science. If you understood stateless widget, every term which carried a meaning over here means the same over here too. There is nothing different. One thing extra we find in a stateful widget is the class test state, which extends state. It is a private class. That's it. Nothing else. Now, this is a way of creating a stateful widget, but since in this project we already have a stateless widget, so I don't think we'll be needing another stateful widget to do the same task. So I'll delete this widget over here and let me show you another procedure to create a stateful widget. What we have to do is we need to highlight the widget over here and all I have to do is press Alt Enter and then I have to convert this into a stateful widget and it's done. Fine. It's that easy. This is the procedure by which you can convert a stateless widget into a stateful widget. And as I said, if you type stateful, you can create the stateful widget class. Fine. So you got two procedures over here. I think this is clear. Now let's walk through the code for once. This class test extends the stateful widget class. Now, there is also a function createState which extends a private class testState, which is over here. Now, this class testState contains the build function and returns the scaffold, that is the total widget tree of our application. I think this is pretty simple to understand. I think till now things are pretty simple and this stateful widget is looking pretty similar to a stateless widget. So let's try and make this application dynamic. So let me declare a variable over here of integer type and let me name it counter, and okay, my spelling is wrong, counter, and initialize it with 7. Why 7? Because it's MS Dhoni's jersey number. Now if I want to display this counter variable inside the widget tree, then what I have to do is I have to call this variable over here, and to call it I will simply type counter, right? No, I hope you might remember it from our Dart lessons that to call a variable in Dart we need to use the $sign. And when I run this application now, you'll be able to see the value of this variable, which is 7. Yeah, this app runs. Now you can argue with me that how is this application dynamic? It is not dynamic yet. It will be declared dynamic when this value of the variable changes on any action by the user. Let's say when the user hits this button, which is termed here as hit me, then the value of this variable increases or decreases, then only this application can be called dynamic. And for that, we have to include functionality of the floating action button, which is called on pressed. Now let's say if I want to increase the value of this variable on each click on this button, then what I can do is, by using orthodox coding knowledge, I can declare this variable as, I can increment this variable as counter is equal to counter plus 1 or counter plus plus. Now this thing will not work. Do you know why? This thing is correct, but it will not work in Flutter, because here we are not changing the state of the variable. We are only changing the value. We need to change the state of this variable. So when I run this application, you won't see any changes over here. It's still 7. Why? Because the state of this variable has not been changed. So we have to change the state of this variable. Now if we run and check our application for once, we'll be able to see that on clicking the button over here, the number in the text box increases. Fine. So our dynamic application is ready. Now if by any chance you are not able to understand what magic this set state is doing, then just remember one thing, that what set state does is it calls the build function again. And as I said in my previous lesson, and I'll again repeat it, that what build function does is it reruns the code over here. And as the code runs, the code takes a note that the counter's value has increased by 1. So it prints the value by adding 1 to it. That's it. So that is the magic of set state. It increments the value. The magic of set state is it reruns the build function, and the build function takes a note that the value of the counter variable has increased by 1. Fine. Hope you got it. So guys, that's it for today. Today we learned how to use stateful widget in dynamic applications. We'll be using it more in the upcoming lessons. Till then, keep learning, keep hustling. Bye bye. Take care.